السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you all for joining us. We are extremely happy to have you with us today. The topic of this session is the UAE energy transition journey. This session will run for 15 minutes. My name is Ali Abdullah Shimmari. I am an international asset manager, GCC at Taqa, and an NEP fellow representing the energy and economy sector. I am very happy to be in the UAE pavilion to moderate this dialogue at COP28. Developed under the direction of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Allah Hafidhah, President of the UAE, National Expert Program is launchpad for professionals who wish to play a deeper role in the transformation of key sectors in the UAE economy. National Expert Program combines academics, immersive experiences, and mentoring by leaders, and I have been blessed to have a mentorship with His Excellency Dr. Sultan bin Ahmed Al Jaber. As of today, 61 Emiratis have graduated from the National Experts Program from 3 cohorts. I am joined today by His Excellency Sharif Al-Ulama to speak about the forward-thinking investment in renewable energy resources and vast land expanses can make the UAE a competitive, low-emissions solar, wind, and green hydrogen supplier by 2030. What are the main signposts in the growth of the clean energy sector in the United Arab Emirates? Our aim today is not to do an academic lecture or session. The NEP dialogue is meant to be highly engaging, and we will show 3 visuals on the screens. Each one represents a trend, an idea, or an innovation that is interesting. We will discuss each image, trying to convey the challenges and opportunities that arise from implementing each. Our hope is that we will come out of this encounter with more vision. The UAE needs to mobilize greater cooperation to accelerate its clean energy transition. Let's start with our first image. Your Excellency, your thoughts about the first image.
Okay, thank you very much, Ali. And first of all, it is immense pleasure to be over here and to get this chance to participate in the National Experts Program. Obviously, as Ali has mentioned, there have been exceptional graduates that have graduated from this program. So whatever we can do to contribute to this program, it is more than a pleasure. As I understand it, Ali, I have a few minutes to talk about what my perception is and where the UAE falls when I have a look at this schematic. Okay, so when we look at this schematic, we are making a very good comparison between where the current status is and where we foresee the future. And when I talk about the future, I am maybe talking about it on a global scale, but I would also rather zoom in terms of what we are doing in the UAE. So you go, for example, when you look at production, your current production schemes comes from your conventional production. When you look at natural gas fired gas turbines, when you look at industries that are very hard to abate, when you look at hydropower that is also utilized in many parts of the world, There is no doubt that the future is headed towards a greener perspective. Wind, solar, biofuel, nuclear are all part of the overall energy mix that we see. When you look at the market, it goes from currently, you see markets that are centralized. You have your normal structure. When you look into the UAE market, you have major authorities that control the entire energy sector, and they're only limited in numbers. But when you move into the future where we see the market going, we see more of a decentralized structure where smart grids come into play, where you have these small islands that are more independent and are interlinked, that can support each other and overall support the bigger landscape. Transmission-wise, you have your conventional power lines, you have your conventional pipelines that transport gas. Of course, again, we look into the future and we see smart grids. We see microgrids that are planned actually as we speak across the country in many locations in the UAE. Distribution-wise, your conventional distribution is going top-down. So basically from the authorities, they sell electricity, and you have people who actually purchase their electricity and pay their monthly bills. We have very recently passed a law, which is also known as the rooftop law, which actually allows a bidirectional flow of energy. We allow industries, we allow the public to install solar panels on the roofs of their homes or at the facilities that they own, and they can produce their own power, and at the same time they can export the power to the grid. And finally, from a consumer perspective, it's very simple. We are going from your conventional consumer to what we call a prosumer. A prosumer being a producer and a consumer at the same time.
Well said, Your Excellency, and to tap on the point that you have mentioned it, once it comes even to the transmission, and we can see it as you mentioned that the UAE in a way that's going to increase the power supplies to accommodate the demands, and we can see it as in the illustrations that doubling the size of transmissions and to accommodate the need of supply. Second,
one thing I will just add also on the transmission, Ali, if you allow me, is also a very important point, and I make reference to Prime Minister Narendra Modi from India. He initiated an initiative called One Sun, One World, One Grid. And this, our perception, is where the world is headed. Interconnection is the solution of the future. It is a reality. Renewable energy is an intermittent source of energy. And the more you have interconnectivity between regions, you can capitalize on the intermittency and simply capitalize on the arbitrage of having different peak requirements at different regions. So we in the UAE, of course, are interconnected with all the GCC countries through the GCCIA. We are currently in discussion to interconnect as well with India. And I think there will be many, many more of such projects in the future.
Thank you. Second illustration or visual. What's your thought about it? And what comes to your mind once you have the first look at it?
This one is very interesting. I was having a discussion with a professor this morning who has written a book about hydrogen and the potential of hydrogen in the future energy mix. And one of the things I was telling him is in the discussion on climate and in all the discussion about going green, many people actually miss a major point. Is yes, going green has a bigger context in terms of saving the planet, preventing climate change, but many people miss that it is also economical. You can actually make money going green. So once you start telling people and you convince them that, you know, going green, installing solar panels or wind farms, storage, EVs, it can make you money, then the half of the problem is gone away because you get the buy-in immediately. When you look at, for example, clean energy generation, UAE, we have a very good example. We have 3 of the largest solar parks in the world. We have amongst the lowest cost of kilowatt hour at around $1.35 cents per kilowatt hour. The model is very straightforward. We have IPP models. There are incentives given to investors. Investors are very comfortable to come and invest in the UAE. The ease of doing business, the investment environment, as well as, of course, the technology that we have developed. Masdar was formed back in 2006. I don't know if many of you do know this, but in 2006, the cost of a kilowatt hour using renewable energy was 4 times that of a kilowatt hour using natural gas. Today, it is totally the opposite. So that's on the clean energy generation. Transmission and distribution, of course, like we talked about, is having decentralized transmission sectors, having consumers actually produce and sell to the grids and give the grids more stability is also another source of income for these prosumers. Energy storage is going to be something very big. Everybody talks about going green, going with renewable energy. Renewable energy, with the fact remains, is intermittent. So what do you solve it with? Batteries, storage. Okay, has anybody thought about how much storage we require if we are to go completely green? The question over here is, do we have enough lithium and cobalt in the world to go green to that extent? And this is where the challenge is. I think we're going to have a problem with the supply chain, and that's why finding solutions when it comes to energy storage, looking for alternatives, can be a very lucrative business. And finally, of course, electric transportation and infrastructure. I'll just talk about the ministry. We are launching a huge project. Being a regulatory body, of course, we are not in the business of going into operational activities. But soon there will be an announcement where we will actually be embarking on building a comprehensive infrastructure for electric vehicles in the country that will promote our targets of getting to 50% EVs by the year 2050 of the total cars that are deployed in the country.
Inshallah. Your Excellency, I was lucky enough to have a couple of sessions this week with you. A question come to my mind, and once I'm seeing this visual across the value chain, and I heard that the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, they are not only focusing in terms of reducing the carbon emissions once it comes to Scope 1, Scope 2, even Scope 3, once it comes to the projects under construction and how they looking after each scope, which is the direct emissions, indirect emissions, and even the once it comes to the value chain itself. Can you give us elaboration about it?
Definitely. The challenge, of course, of Scope 1 and 2 are mostly what is discussed, I think, during these negotiations. Scope 3 is, of course, a challenge for us. We've looked at it from all the different angles. One example is, of course, what I mentioned is in terms of what we're doing when it comes to consumption, when it comes to vehicles, when it comes to consuming at the homes. I think the challenge over here is to actually build on the entire infrastructure that you have and expand the vision that you have and develop strategies and KPIs against each of these targets. Once you have a proper plan and structure in place, you can achieve quite a lot.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The third visual. What do you think about it?
This is very impressive. I think this tells us the entire story of COP28. if I'm not mistaken. Well, it's reality. I think it's reality, and for me, I can explain this visual with two words: energy transition. You're going from hard-to-abate industries that utilize coal, oil wells, producing oil and natural gas to power our economies, and of course, factories that produce the various products that we consume on a daily basis. And with the color, of course, that is blue. With the color, you can see that it is slowly transitioning into green. And all of a sudden, you have nuclear coming into the picture, which again, there is quite a lot of debate about nuclear. Is it blue? Is it green? Is it somewhere in between? We have our views, of course. So we think nuclear is mandatory and it is a must. That is why we have actually signed on the declaration of tripling nuclear capacity earlier in COP28. And once you shift to the right, of course, this is the future where we see is a future that is green, that is built around renewable energy, solar, wind, hydro, and of course, nature-based solutions when you look into planting trees, mangroves. So literally, this is basically your energy transition, going from a world that has emissions that, of course, we all are striving to address and reduce, and eventually transitioning into a world that still grows, that still has prosperity for communities, for individuals, yet it is more conscious when it comes to utilizing energy sources that are either clean, or even if they were not clean, that they are blue, they have technologies that support it in terms of carbon capture or other technologies.
Well, thank you so much, Your Excellency. I think you expressed the last visual in a very well said, honestly. How you expressed the colors from the left to the right, moving from the blue to the green. I believe as an individual, we play a vital role in empowering this on the implementation of this journey. If you allow me for a last question, this is out of the script. How, as an individual, can we contribute to support the government, the industry players, and the whole ecosystem to take this strategy forward?
Very, very good question, Ali. Many people believe that the energy transition is an issue that governments have to deal with. They either say that, you know, it is the responsibility, let's be very transparent, of policymakers, regulators, or no, it is the responsibility of fossil fuel producers, or it is the responsibility of the leadership of countries. We believe every single person has a role to play. Every single person. So let's go down to the individual, the normal individual. If I go and I talk about myself at my home, when I get rid of certain garbage, my wife comes and she taunts me and she says, why didn't you put the garbage in the recycle bin? So this is behavior, and the kids are picking that up. Another thing is, for example, is when you actually get your, let's say, monthly bill, electricity bill, and you have an indication on your bill in terms of how much CO2 emission has been produced from your household. And you educate the younger generation that, see, this month we consumed so much electricity and water, and this resulted in so much emissions into the world. Why don't we try to improve that by 5% next month? So all of a sudden you see the kids, you know, walking around in the house, they see that the light is open, nobody's in that room, they just automatically close the light. This is the behavior that we're talking about that needs to change. And this is, every single individual can contribute to that. That is why we in the ministry, part of the demand supply management program that we have across the board, we are handling 4 major sectors: agriculture, industries, buildings, and transportation. One part is awareness. What we have done is we have put together, jointly with the Department of Energy in Abu Dhabi, is a curriculum that is sent to the Ministry of Education, that is distributed at different age levels at schools. So even children in the lower grades, in elementary grades, actually have a curriculum that teaches them what it means to be more energy efficient. What does it mean? How does it impact the world? How does their contribution help the global effort that we are putting in terms of preventing climate change?
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, on the behalf of the UAE Pavilion and the National Experts Program, I would like to thank His Excellency Sharif Al-Alama, who supported us today to visualize the energy transition journey from leadership perspective. Thank you so much.
Allah يخليك عليك.
شكرا. صورة وياك.